Hi everyone. So today's session was very educative and informative. I learned so much about how to build your career as young people. So what I learned is that it's very important for you to know yourself, to know what you're good at, to take advantage of opportunities, to continue learning, and lastly, take advantage of every situation or every opportunity that comes your way.
Okay, so what I learned was the 7 things that can keep you as a Christian trying to find your way in this world. So what I learned is to pray. You have to pray, 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 and you have to pray.
That's
and
a
God
what?
will do everything. And that's a what?
Period.
Hello, people. Thank you once again for coming around today. Today's talk was on career and choosing the right career path. God willing, tomorrow we will have a talk on investing your finances and managing your finances. Please do well to come around so that you can learn a lot for yourself. Thank you.
Investments, they are the brush strokes on our canvas. Each seed planted becomes a sapling reaching for the sky, whether it's stocks, bonds, or a humble savings account. Investments weave a safety net, a hammock where your dreams can rest. They whisper, "Fear not, for tomorrow is tended." And finances, imagine them as the notes in a symphony, the rhythm that sustains life's melody. Budgets, debts, and savings compose this score. Learning to conduct this orchestra ensures harmony. It's not about denying today's joys, it's about orchestrating a crescendo that spans decades. On Wednesday, the 17th of July, 2024, join us together with our finance experts as we delve into the world of finance management and stability. It's going to be nothing short of insightful, and you definitely do not want to miss this. Incrementum, growing together.
My name is Samuel Asari. Everyone calls me Sam. But for today, I'll be called Composure.
And my name is Joel Fritek, and for today, I'm Steez. So that's Composure, and I'm Steez.
Okay, sure. So we would like to introduce our panelists for today. What are we doing? The exhortation. So I would like to introduce my brother Joel to take us through the exhortation for today before the panelists.
So, as Composure rightly said, we're here to talk about wise money, wise life, an investment in your future, not just in the here, but in the hereafter. Now, what that means is that safeguarding and being a good financial steward helps you not just on earth, but also safeguard your life in heaven. Now, I'm sure you might not understand it, but just give it some time. Give it some time. Maintain composure. Maintain composure. Maintain your steez. Don't shake. Don't shake. Don't shake. We'll make sure that all the questions that you have will answer it. So without much ado, today we say we are young, full of dreams, and the world stretches out before us like a vast and exciting adventure. But amidst the promise of a future, gut-wrenching questions tug at our hearts and our minds. How we go make them? How we go survive? How I go build? How I go marry? And most important of all, how I go leave Ghana? Now you might wonder, what has today's conversation got to do with answering any of these questions? The truth is, financial literacy isn't just about numbers and spreadsheets. It's about building a strong foundation for our future, not just on earth, but as we will learn from our discussion today, also in heaven. Okay, let's be real. Financial stewardship helps you breathe easier. You know that feeling that you have some cash saved up for a rainy day? That's the peace of mind that financial planning brings. It allows you to face unplanned expenses, like my brother here, while maintaining composure. Or like myself, can maintain steez. Nothing will faze you. Budgeting lets you be the boss of your money, steering it towards your goals. You know, that dream house, that dream car, that fly outfit, that wig, or that trip that's been on your wish list forever. Financial planning allows you to check those things off of your boxes. But all jokes aside though, financial stewardship goes beyond the physical. As part of expanding on our theme, incrementum, we want to ensure that as young people of God, as young people of Ebenezer, we increase in everything. And so we want to ensure that at the end of this session, we increase in our wisdom in handling money. The Bible teaches us that everything that we have comes from God. We are simply stewards entrusted with these resources. And this can be found in 1 Chronicles 29:16 and also Luke 19:11 to 27. By managing our finances wisely, we demonstrate our faithfulness and our gratitude to God for his provision. Think about it this way. On Monday, the Papa of the house, our Superintendent Minister, Right Reverend Thomas Amponsa Donko, shared the parable of the minas, right? I hope you were all here on Monday. We all remember that story. Now that same story is reiterated in Matthew 25:14 to 30. Only this time, the story is told with talents instead of minas. Now in both stories, the good stewards are the ones who use their resources wisely, and they are the ones that are rewarded. I want to remind us that our ultimate goal, not just as young people, but as Christians, is to hear our Heavenly Father and say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Financial literacy not only allows you to be a good and faithful servant, but it allows you to break free from the chains of debt. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7, it warns us that the borrower is slave to the lender. Excessive debt can steal your peace and hinder your spiritual growth. Abira na kebitum da bompe na e de dwen ho. Irade nti a chine diban abediban na medi. Abatere na meche. Kakra mefa akujbom kra abisika na medi befa. So financial freedom, financial literacy, it helps you to avoid some of these things. And it allows you to live a life of integrity and avoid financial bondage. Osande se osika na se obi bade or ma bribe. E de bribe nearly yede. Wala e we di bandi e o baby da e wa tereshe nti abade na me debe nwa metum da atwaji na ba ade ame me pebe. And even as we reflect on our theme of growing together, I would like us to remember that financial responsibility is not just about securing your own future. It's about being a better steward who can use resources for the good of others. What good does it make if only you, this whole Ebenezer, open a whisker, na debi aye barbestro, na why de? Why de? Onye de. Yeah, you harvest cry into meet and target. Osanda unkutin a discali to bone. Onye fine. So God calls us to ensure that when we grow in our finances, when we manage our money wisely, we are able to support the ministries that we are passionate about, help those in need, and contribute, most importantly, to building God's kingdom. Now, this is just a brief teaser of the discussions that we'll be having tonight. We have a fantastic panel of experts who Composure will introduce to you shortly. They are already here, and they are here to dissect these topics and answer any questions that you might have. Now, whether you are wondering about how to budget, if you a budget on soon, if you are a national service, one can calculate to 559, and as is on your 559. Or you are in 7 abadi. If you are now calculate but we are going to teach you, we are going to give you practical strategies on how to budget, how to navigate loans, and how to make sure that you are doing all of this, integrating your faith with it. And so my brother Composure is going to introduce our panel of experts. As for me, I'm just going to maintain my steez.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So without wasting much time, I would like to introduce our first panelist, who is our daddy, the youngest daddy in the house and the steward of the house, Mr. Ofori Teko.
Come on, you can do it better. And now, when anyone talk about Biana, one bone say man. I didn't hear in the crown, bone same. I didn't know five Biana.
Keep on clapping.
Bone same. Anti-Irene, bone same man.
Thank you so much, Daddy. And our second panelist, who I would like to say something short about him, because I have been wanting to say this thing about him, because if it wasn't for him, I remember when we were writing our BEC, I don't know if my colleagues would remember
Okay,
He was, yeah,
okay,
he was the one that took us through the BEC period, and I really do appreciate him so much because he taught me math, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been an engineer. Thank you so much, Mr. Polly. Thank you so much. He has 3 beautiful daughters. They are so beautiful. So give a clap, give a clap, give a clap for Mr. Polly. Give a clap. Okay. Thank you so much, panelists. Thank you so much for receiving us today. Thank you. So we will delve straight into the questions. This session will be straight up questions and answers. So kindly prepare your questions for them. We will delve deeper into things that are bothering us in finance, in savings, in budgeting, in investment, which is really important. So kindly have a seat, listen to what they have to tell us, and kindly enjoy the session for today. Thank you so much, everyone.
Ebi so ane wo question a efrede ebi bisa. Ebi tuma catch media funi bi wo ba be gumaso. Me bisa mo. Say ebi a epede hu de Kristo ni bet oyi ana onye. Adi bi epede bisa be amenfre. Eka brofo, eka Creole, eka Spanish cry yeti asinti. I'll just pass it on to the media men and they would make sure to share it with us.
I want to protest. There's a conflict of interest. Father, son. He has already leaked the questions to the father. So please, if the officer, I was awful. My protest, I've made my protest.
Pocho, ewa sembi kan iwano anade yenja monka.
In the house of God, this protest is acknowledged and is assured that questions have not been leaked. Thank you.
Okay. Steve, start here.
Yeah, I'm maintaining my steez.
Okay, sure. So the first question that we have for today is, Daddy, to Mr. Oforiteko, what are some practical steps young adults can take to create and stick to a budget, especially when their income is irregular or limited? Should I take the question again? What are some practical steps young adults can take to create and stick to a budget, especially when their income is irregular or limited?
How na you to create a budget? Na ya skana ebimba nti ebe dem puni create a budget, ni a stick to budget.
Thank you very much. The first thing we've got to recognize is that no matter how much you make, it will never be enough. Because when one need is met, another one is created. So irrespective of how much you think you are getting, it is useful if you put yourself to the task of deciding as to how you allocate the resources you have, how you control the resources, and how you make your financial decisions. So, in this context, the first thing I want us to acknowledge is that we need a mental shift in terms of how we appreciate the relevance of budgeting in assisting us to manage our finances. We've got to accept that budgeting would help us to effectively manage our resources. Otherwise, no matter what you do, if you're not committed to it, if you don't believe in it, it will not work. So that's the very first point I want us to acknowledge. Now, once we acknowledge that budgeting would help us in managing our finances, effectively and efficiently, the starting point is to know how much you earn. In other words, know your net income you are dealing with, the disposable income. If you are doing a number of jobs, it's important that you recognize that you are getting bits and pieces from here and there. Sum them up, that becomes what your total income net is in this particular case. A lot of us do not take pains to work out our expenditure pattern. So the second point is to list out your expenditure items. Because what the budgeting tries to do is to help you to make mistakes on paper. It allows you to analyze your finances in detail and to take actions that would help you manage the resources. So look at your expenses and categorize them. Which of them are the compulsory ones, and which of them are the optional ones? Compulsory ones in the sense that they are fixed in nature. You would eat, you pay rent, you pay utilities, things like that. They are the ones that you would put under the compulsory ones. Optional ones, things like entertainment, things like buying clothes, you have control over them. So once you have categorized these expenditure items, what you do is to then look at those ones that are wants and those that are needs. The needs are things that you necessarily would need to have. The wants are things you like, but you can do without them for some time. So this categorization allows you to make a determination as to how you allocate the resources you have to each of them. Now, when you have done that, tracking the expenditure items, you want to try and set the goals for yourself. Some of us want to marry in the next 1 year, 2 years. You want to buy a fridge, you want to buy a car. So set clear goals. They could be short-term, medium-term, long-term. All of those things you sit down and think through and put them on paper. Once you have set those goals, looked at your expenditure items, then you come down to the plan itself. And in the plan, you are putting all those expenditure items that you've listed out, you are putting spending limits to them individually. You add them up to have a rough idea of what your total expenditure will look like. You know at the top end what your disposable income is. So having done this rough calculation, you compare with your disposable income and see whether you are operating within budget. Because you've got to set some aside, as I've already said, those which will go to the needs, those who go to the wants, and those who go to savings, and maybe if you have some debt to pay. So you've got to do those things. And then when you have summed them up, you have to do some readjustment or rebalancing to ensure that you are working within the budget. When you have done that, you've got to review periodically to be sure that you are staying within budget. So in simple terms, this is what practically. But let me quickly add that commitment is key. Attitude is key. You can have a beautifully drawn out budget, but if you are not disciplined, if you're not committed to working it out, you would always end up going beyond budget and becoming somebody who is always stressed up. I think I'll end it here and then allow my brother, if he has a few things to add up.
That was a detailed explanation. I think we can do better.
I like stories, so I'm going to tell you a story. Fortunately, I happen to work in the informal sector space. And so I'm very much in tune with people earning irregular income. But before I continue, how many of you were here yesterday? If you remember, when the program started, it was all Brofonkwa. Then suddenly they introduced an engineer. And when the engineer came here, he was mixing Joy FM and Peace FM. We happen to have the same alma mater. So when I'm also mixing it, you must understand. In our school, we think in Chi and speak in English. So when I moved to Chi, you understand me. So back to the story. We went to Swami, Kumasi magazine. And we met this guy. I sell pensions. So we tell him, we educate the guy about the pension. And he says, Master, what did you pay? We did maybe. Then we said, can you pay 100 cedis a month? I said, Master, 100, you're also, there be a minimum 20. He said he can pay 100 cedis a month, but he's ready to give us 20 cedis every day. Yeah. So if you take a very pessimistic scenario of 20 days, that is 400 against what? 100. And that's what my mentor was saying. See, this guy earns money every day, but every day he must blow the money and wait for the next day. He doesn't have anything like a budget that will guide him and say that, okay, if this 100 cedis I'm even making every day, if I put maybe 50 cedis down, by then I have so much. I can use so much to pay my rent, pay my electricity bill, pay my water bill, even pay myself. I have reserved to invest. So without a budget, he's just living by the day. And that's what most of us do. We live by the day, those of us who earn irregular income. And I talked about the Kumasi one. The Takrad one is more interesting. Also, branch, me nya 200 ma one busumbia, wapa debia 130 cedis. Because again, she's a market woman. So if she does good business, she'll buy meat and go and do good soup. The day business is bad, baby. And that is why, like my big brother said, budgeting is very good. Budgeting will guide you. We talked about practical ways. There are so many theories. There's what we call 80-10-10. By 80-10-10, what they mean is that the income that comes to your hand, 10 for tithe if you're a Christian, save 10 and use the 80 for your, what you call the needs. Then there is 50-30-20. The 50-30-20 says that the income that comes to your hand, use 50 for your needs, save 20, use 30 to blow time. So you look at your circumstances. If you earn an irregular income, even think about paying yourself. So don't, immediately the money comes, don't start spending. Ask yourself, how much can I pay myself so that I can pay my rent? And then you can save some. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pocho, misusu de in na ye chocho nyama uzanda had a radio. Yen san mbodu biom. Ebia se be kwa share recording dey fine, but Pocho one throw se be throw to phone do se be throw to paper do. Pocho one throw and emu nyina oye nyama ohia. Na my second question na odama komado. Yen rewind. I had yen rewind. And my second question, or Damakumadupa, because I'm a young Christian, but what's my family, mommy? In time, I'm a life, metabo life. And I was from Steve's, but I want to know how can us as young Christians, how can we balance the desire to enjoy life today with the need to save for future financial security? Because in EJ what's our brother on but we also know that as Christians we have to be good financial stewards. So how can we balance that? This goes to either of you, either anyone who has an answer for us. We would be really grateful.
Okay. So one of my favorite quotes in the Bible is Luke 14, 28 to 30. I'm paraphrasing. He says that who wants to build a house and will not look at the cost of everything and then start? Because if you start and you don't finish, people will laugh at you. So that's about planning. Now, what we need to understand is that saving is just deferring expenditure. So, which one do you want? Chichi or chichi so? So, back in school we call it, do you want suffer to gain or you gain to suffer? So do you want to spend your money now and be happy, and then later on in your years you don't have anything, or you want to take it gradually and later on you can cross your legs and enjoy? Because he said something that was very important. In life, it's about transition. At every stage in life, you are transitioning to the next one. So if you take education, when you are JHS, if you don't prepare very well for BCE, you never move on to what? SHS. If you get to SHS and you don't prepare for tertiary education, you will not go there. Same concept applies here. At every point in your life, you have something. When he said marrying in 1 year, I realized you are very excited. Congrats in advance. So now that you have a plan to marry in a year's time, don't break anybody's heart. Then what it means is that you cannot continue buying the shoes. You cannot continue buying the wristwatches because you need to buy the suitcase. I have a file. You know, I have 3 daughters. We'll be out on a file. So when you come, I give you a calculator and I give you the file. If you come up, I'm on present day value.
Thank you very much. I'd like to use the story of Joseph to illustrate this point. The Bible encourages us to use our resources wisely. Those of you who are not married yet, when you marry and begin to have children, they will go from toddlers to growing up children into the teens. They become young adults. They would also marry, begin to have children, at which point you become a grandparent. So you will transition from a parent to a grandparent, looking after children of different ages. Each of these stages have their own expenditure profiles. So you cannot decide to spend everything you have today and now. You've got to think about tomorrow. That's the first point I want to make. Now, in Joseph's case, the Bible uses that to illustrate a very profound aspect of the individual's life. God gives us plenty, sometimes more than we even need for the present. We would call those the years of abundance. Now, if you are not faithful, or let's put it this way, if you are faithful, wise, diligent, to save some of what God endows you with, then when that evil day comes, which the Bible in Joseph's case is the years of famine, you will not only have enough for yourself, you will also have some that others can benefit from. So the idea of wanting to spend everything today because life is sweet, Scripture warns us that the wise puts aside for tomorrow, but the fool devours all that he has. If you look at Proverbs 21:20. Again, this requires that we develop a savings habit, which means that you set deliberately, consistently, set aside a portion of what you earn. Some would suggest that you do a 10% of that. If we look back, COVID, for those of us who did not have any emergency fund, those of us who did not have any fallback, it was a very devastating period. And that should be instructional to all of us and for all of us, that you cannot spend all that you have today. You've got to save for a rainy day. Let me conclude this part by looking at the grasshopper and the ant. You know the story. When the ant was busy working hard during the sunny periods to put or to stockpile for the rainy day, the grasshopper was so happy, just like you are saying. We are here there. We don't see it there. It's banana, Didi. You know who had the last laugh between the ant and the grasshopper. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we are moving on to the next question. What role do contentment and gratitude play in effective budgeting and saving according to biblical teachings? What role do contentment and gratitude play in effective budgeting and saving according to biblical teachings?
Okay, so we are looking at effective budgeting and what? Okay, so we are looking at the role of contentment and gratitude on effective savings and budgeting. Okay, now the first thing we need to address, what are the key elements in the budgeting thing that we are talking about? Essentially, we are looking at your income and expenses, right? Okay. The second thing we want to address is what are potential drivers of these two elements as they relate to our attitude towards contentment and gratitude. The income side, contentment and attitude, contentment and gratitude have a way of influencing how you see or how you appreciate what you get, whether you are satisfied or not. So, on the income side, somebody who is not content of what he's getting has the potential to want to be greedy, want to be envious, would involve in corrupt practices, and things like that. So in other words, that attitude of not being satisfied with God's provisions drives that person, because he is not content, to do things which would make the budgeting ineffective. In other words, he would involve in stealing, he would involve in bribes, he would involve in all kinds of things that would not make him worry about where the next available money is coming from. So he will not then effectively track the income side. Because also, okay? And because of that, he or she would not focus on his expenditure patterns. Otherwise, how is it possible that in one of the WhatsApp messages, I'm told that the minister for, is it energy or something like that in Nigeria, the former one, after she's left, when they visited her house, in some of the things they saw, she had bought bra. That was about 20-something million. I mean, so the question I ask is, so, and she's even over 50. So, all I'm trying to say is that contentment, being satisfied with what God provides for you. Such a person who is contented is satisfied, he's not envious, he would frown upon corruption and would abhor anything that does not honor God. And therefore, he would like to work within budget. But somebody who is not contented will do anything. Grab, grab, grab. Spend, spend, spend. And therefore, does not make the budgeting process and the implementation of the budget so prepared effective. That is what I want to say about this part. Perhaps my brother wants to add a few.
You know me, I tell stories. I used to sell money. I was working at financial institutions. You sell money. Anybody who gives loans sells money. So we designed a product, and the product was targeted towards people who work in the bank. We realized that the young people, when they enter the bank, because they are not content, they want to drive big cars, they want to do everything. They want to go to Aliza Hotel for breakfast before they go to work. So we designed a loan scheme, and we called it Excel Loan, and we targeted the bank guys and then the ladies. So when they come for the loan, all we need is give us checks. If the loan is 6 months, give us 6 months check, postdated checks to cover the loan. The trick was that if you don't pay, you go to your bank. Now the banks also prohibits their staff from taking loans outside, right? So if you don't come and pay, I'll go to your HR you owe me, you lose your job. So what they did was that a day or two to them paying the money, they quickly come bring us our cash and they'll take their check away. Because if we pay in the check, it will show that it's going to another financial institution and it'll trigger this. So you see here, simple. If you are content, you won't come for this loan. Nobody will chase you. He talked about budgeting, and that's simple. So I asked myself, why is Ghana broke? You know how much money we get. We have a budget, but we spend outside the budget. So then we should borrow more money to work. So if you are not content, and I try not to even differentiate between being grateful and being content, because if you are grateful, you are happy with what you have. And so if you draw your budget and say, I earn 500 cedis, I'm paying electricity bill of 20 cedis, water 10, food maybe 300. At the end of it all, I know I can save 50 cedis. But then you see Steve in his nice Nike shoe, and you want it. Your 50 gap, come buy it. Also, cry one too. Never me too kind of the brain. But you want it because you're not content. Now, how do you get it? You are 50, you now need more money to add to the 50 to go buy the Nike shoe. It means that your next month budget, you're already going into it. Because you're even going to do what? To borrow. So, before you say Jack, you are in debt. So we all need to be content and need to be grateful. Back to something that we said earlier on. In as much as you want to budget, you don't want to spend, you want to be distant, please try to always make the child in you happy. At the end of the day, once in a while, Charlie, you're show kakra. Why? So ice cream now, pa. Woman want to kakra no edi. Why free? Why? Yes.
For sure, me sana bodubium. Yena yetna. I hope they are true because, like I said, I had a radio show. Enya recording biao baby out. Inti san true I had a. Now you know a pound. Chilebi a kokutu na bisa onyankopon da abasem na okay na bia susu konkon na ya chira na de bibi. It's important. Let's make sure to take notes. If it's on your phone, preferably a writing pad, but please let's make sure to take notes because this is a very important conversation for us all. Now, the next question is how do we as Christians reconcile the need to manage debt with the biblical principle of living free from financial bondage? Because in the Ghana, Zepede etodana, Masa. A boy is kind of 10 years. I could draw no, not done on the price, no. We boom in the Chile, as our current chamber and hall. So you'd have to take a mortgage. Zepede eto CRV. Last year was 140,000. This year is 350,000. Until you have to go and take a car loan. But we also know that Proverbs 22:7 tells us that the borrower is slave to the lender. So how do we as Christians reconcile the need to manage debt with the biblical principle of living free from bondage to debt?
Okay, so let me start. Personally, I'm not against debt. But I also tell people that this is how I see especially loans. So this is how I put it. You are in a pit. You want to come out of the pit. And you are digging. What's happening to you? You are going deeper. So, if you are hard up and you are going to take a loan, what you must understand that you are increasing your hardship. That is not to say loans are not good. Number one, what is the purpose of the loan? Number two, are you in a position to repay the loan such that it will not put more hardship on you. So you talked about CR7. So you are earning, let's say, 100 cedis. I'm just breaking it down. CR7, who do you get 100 on to me to make a diagro? I'll tell you, you say 100 to CR7. First now. So you're earning 100 cedis. Now you go and take the car loan, and it's okay, every month you have to pay 10 cedis. Again, this is where your budgeting comes in. After you have paid all the needs, do you have a surplus that can take care of that 5 cedis for the next maybe 5 years? If you can do that, then go ahead. If you can't do it, don't tempt. So, for example, I tell people who even take loans to do things like projects is that if you need 10 cedis to do business, don't go and take a loan of 5 cedis. Because that 5 cedis will not be able to do that 10 cedis business for you to repay the 5 cedis. Again, don't take 15 cedis. Because when you take 15 cedis, that 10 cedis business cannot work for you to repay the 15 cedis. And the danger of the 15 cedis is that the moment you take the 15 cedis, before you need 10, then the 5 cedis is gone, because that is where Ubaya is. You have cash. So, taking loans in itself is not bad, but you have to assess yourself and also have to be purpose-driven. What am I using it for? I mean, yesterday we had some very interesting stories here with the fashion designers. And assuming that one of these fashion designers is going to get a contract with, say, Woodin for the next maybe 2 years. Meanwhile, has one sewing machine. She needs more. She doesn't have the cash. If he's going to take a loan and buy, because she has a contract, going to produce when they pay, she's going to, and in the long run, that loan now becomes what? His or her capital. So we should be very careful and assess ourselves. I mean, mortgage, I was always advising people to go for mortgage. Because, especially those of us who came to visit our brothers and sisters in Accra. Because in Krasasano, it's a great of 4. But if you took mortgage and bought a real estate developer, and I tell people that, look, even when you are building your house, have you thought of which people do I want my children to grow with? Reverend Sechapia, if she used to stay a very nice house, and he says that, Kofi, I wake up in the morning, I'm going to work, I open my gate, somebody's bathing in front of my gate. Is that where you want to stay? But unfortunately, right now, our dollar CD rate is terrible. And therefore, you can go in and take a mortgage. At the time you were taking the mortgage, probably it was 6 cedis to $1. Within the next 2 years, it has doubled. How are you going to pay? So we need to do proper analysis of these things before we move in. But I'll end by saying that it's very interesting the way we behave. Maybe this should be my last comment, but let me say it here. When you are sick, where do you go?
The hospital.
To see who?
The doctor.
Why do you see the doctor?
Because I assume that he would be able to prescribe medication or some form of treatment to help me get better.
Because they're professional. Okay. If you're litigating a case, what do?
I would go to a lawyer.
You go to a lawyer.
Yeah.
Why the lawyer?
Because the lawyer has knowledge on the
Professional
problem.
advice and all that.
Yeah,
Simple. So why then when it comes to finances, we don't go to people with that expertise? We think we can do it all by ourselves. Go and talk to them. Go enter a banking hall, enter a financial institution, Just talk. Yesterday I was at banking hall, a lady came to sit by me and said, please, can I ask you a question? I said, go ahead. He said, I work at Lekma Hospital, and my colleagues are pushing me that I should come and open a dollar account. And I said, oh, I see. So you have a lot of dollars coming in. He said, no. So why you come to open a dollar account? So please, in as much as when we have problem in all aspects of our life, we try to talk to a professional. Similarly, when it comes to finance, let's look out for professionals and talk to them.
Just to top up from where my brother left off. You see, in an attempt to be financially secure and stable, we sometimes end up in the web where we are involved in a lot of worries, constraints, and then sometimes discontent. Simply because we did not take time to review what we were going into. Back to the case of, say, going for a loan. Your income source is CD-based. You go for a dollar-based facility for a mortgage. You did not sit down to try and understand how the CD dollar movement over the 15-year mortgage period would evolve. You have no clue. You did not even review the interest rates on the transaction. You did not review the late payment penalties on the transaction. In fact, in the banking system, when they give you a facility, there's a default clause which would detail out late payments, how interest rates will change. For instance, if the interest rate on the regular facility was, say, 20%, in the offer document, they will say a default clause of plus, say, 6. So you should then ask yourself that in the event of a default, your interest rate is no longer 20, the outstanding amount then attracts interest at the rate of 26% per annum instead of the 20% you know. We do not look at that. In fact, some of us have had occasions where some people have taken loans from banks and they don't even know what interest rate is on the facility, what installment payment they were expected to be making on a monthly basis in this chapel. Meanwhile, they have taken the loans. Now, if you end up not meeting the regular installments, the loan builds up. The danger in your outstanding bills piling up is to land you in a situation where you become stressed up. That is where the financial bondage comes in. You are always under pressure. Constantly, you are struggling with finance, money, and the future. In fact, sometimes you are always arguing over money. In the house, the slightest thing you are angry, not because your wife or your sister or your brother has done anything wrong, but you want to contribute to church finances. Sunday Abaso offering time. To be. So what the cow word than one in terms of your concentration, in terms of your involvement in worship, Odru Afetria, na I am SMP. Not because you did not want to, but your actions and inactions have landed you in a situation where you are in financial bondage. The next day. So let's be careful anytime we are taking certain actions that involves financial outlay or that involves others making claims on us in terms of finance. It's important that we take time to think through properly. If we've got to ask for advice from people who understand it, we need to do that so that we don't end up being so stressed up that our whole life is finance and what happens to me in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
So one question that we as young people are constantly asking ourselves is, what are the key investment opportunities that are available to us as young men, young women in the church? And what should we know about these opportunities? Because every day we wake up, there's a new scheme, a new plan, a new facility, a new investment type that's being thrown at us. It wasn't too long ago that we know the story of Men's Gold. There was also Max International. There were a couple of other things, right?
The domestic debt exchange too. The domestic debt exchange.
So today, Mami Keno, I mean, menu Jimmy Hopa. It is a CC our tram day. Me first can to ho ma ochina. Him fan a wobaka day or a baby as a misikatua. Me to ma da. Na me how moho wa ada obosi ochina. Me to ma da hati today afraba.
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, this is my understanding of investment. Investment simply means making your money make money for you. So, for example, if I buy treasury bill, I go to the bank says, okay, we are taking your money, in 91 days, we give you this interest rate. When I go and sleep, I don't care what the bank does. When the 91 days come, Oga, give me my money plus my interest. So for me, that's investment. Yes, admittedly, our investment climate has been terrible because of, we know what he just mentioned, the DDEP. It's been bad. But I tell people that, look at it from this angle. If you kept your money under the bed, so the finance people, I'm not a finance person, please. The finance people say they have something they call real return on investment. And what they do is that they take the percentage of the interest and then subtract the inflation rate from it. So if the inflation rate is, say, 25, and you invested and go say 20, when we subtract, we get -5. It means we've lost out, technically. But also ask yourself, if you did not invest and go 20, then it is what? 0 minus 25. Charlie Numuwaro. So instead of the 5, you now have 5, not 5. So, yes, in as much as the investment climate is bad, it doesn't mean we should not think about investment. Yes, government bonds went bad, but there are still avenues. I think that one, I'll leave it up to Forrest to talk more, so I will mean Jamie.
Thank you very much. Let's make a few preliminary comments in relation to investment. First, we've got to be clear in our minds whether we... Okay, let me start off from the investment itself to put it in context. So the use of money for profit. That's one part. The second part is money you invest in, say, a business venture that generates you some returns. And thirdly, we can look at it as something that you put money in that eventually, in the long run, may appreciate. So in the first category, where you are using money to generate profit, if you take the stock exchange, for instance, you go in to buy stocks. You buy securities. In the second part, you are investing in businesses. The third part, we'll look at real estate, for instance. Now, you've got to make a clear distinction as to your motivation for the investment. Are you looking for returns? Are you looking for liquidity? Or are you looking for safety? These three key things should drive your decision in terms of how each of them relates to the risk profile of the area that you want to go into. So we are looking at whether it's returns driven, or whether it's liquidity you are looking for, or whether it's safety. That would bring us into the available options on the market. Now, one part is to look at what you can do on the stock exchange. But for beginners, you don't have enough to take into that long-term type of investment. For beginners, the advice would always be to try and grow the little you have over time before you deploy into more risky opportunities. So on the lower end, where we are beginning, we may want to look at some bank deposits, like say a fixed deposit, or say a certificate of deposits. You may want to look at the purchase of treasury bills, which will give you options to invest for 91 days, 182 days, or up to a year. That allows you to build up money over time. So for instance, those of us still staying with our parents, we can take a position and say that, wait a minute, some of my colleagues of same profile are not with their parents. They are renting their own apartments or own places to stay. They are paying utility bills. Okay? They are buying their own food. Now you are staying with your parents, eating, sleeping, paying no utility bills, and still taking salaries and keeping to yourself. So the advice here would be that to try and build up resources. You can begin little by little in investing in, say, government securities, buying treasury bills. Luckily, treasury bills, they sell in 1 CD units. So you can buy 500 CDs. You can buy 200 CDs. So you build up small over time until you have gotten to a sizable amount, then you can deploy that into another investment profile. The other thing that we also have to look at is to diversify your portfolio, such that if one of the investments goes down south, you don't have your whole investment crashing. So we have the treasury bills, you have mutual funds. Mutual funds, essentially, what they seek to do is that you have a trust fund where a lot of people put their money. So it's a pool of resources. So you bring 300 CDs, you bring 100 CDs, you bring 30 CDs, and that is available to a professional fund manager. So you just contribute the money to the fund, and they manage the resources on your behalf. So they decide whether they invest that in equity funds, which will be on the stock exchange. They review the performance of the entities, those that are doing well, those that are capable of paying you dividends over time. They would also make a determination as to what debt instruments they would buy for you. So you only give the money to them, and they do the management of the resources on your behalf. So that is what we refer to as the mutual funds. In fact, in recent times, they are calling them the collective investment schemes. You start off with small units. You buy a unit, and then you can take it from there as well. Now, there has been confusion as to the treasury bill market, our understanding of what the treasury bill actually is. I've had situations where somebody says that, oh, Mokreno, they have paid my interest upfront. That is incorrect. If you go with, say, 200 CDs and you want them to buy treasury bills, and they give you 30 CDs, and they say they have paid you your interest upfront, it doesn't work that way. They have not invested your money effectively and efficiently. The treasury bill is a discount paper. What that simply means is this. If I invest today with 100 CDs, there are two ways that I can invest. One will be take the whole of the 100 CDs. Okay? In 3 months, I expect to get the 100 CDs plus something else, which will be the return I get on the 100 CDs. So when you are looking forward into the future, that is what we refer to as the interest rate. So what you get on the investment looking into the future from today is the interest rate. But with the treasury bills, it doesn't work that way. Treasury bills looks at a figure in the future and say, if I want 100 CDs in 91 days, how much should I pay today to get me 100 CDs 3 months hence? So the 100 CDs you took, if the person gave you 30 CDs, it means that the person has only invested 70 CDs. But he could have invested the 100 CDs, the 30 CDs in advance. So if you ever went into a bank to say you want to buy a treasury bill, you should tell them how much you expect to get in 3 months and let them decide how much you pay today. So they will discount the 100 CDs and say that, oh, okay, if you want 100 CDs in 3 months, then today you have to pay, say, 70 CDs. It is not the 30 CDs they have given you interest in advance. There's a relationship between the discount rate and the interest rate. That will be for another day. But all I want us to understand is that there is a way that you would invest the money. Don't allow them, the 30 CDs you have gotten upfront, you go and spend it. But you wanted actually to invest it. So they should take the full amount. So you should tell them what your future value that you want and what they would have to take from your account is that future value that they discount, that is, bring it into today's term, which they will call the present value. That is how the treasury bill works. I hope that is very clear. That is the way it works. So, yes, the investment market, the investment environment is challenged, but it is still yielding positive results. People are still investing in treasury bills and they are getting their monies back. People are investing in bank deposits and they are getting their monies back. But the problem with some of us is what the Bible speaks against. Let's take that you said good about
Men's good.
men's good. If you look at it carefully, the question you ask yourself is whether those who invested in that instrument actually understood what they were buying. Obviously not. Some were driven by greed, because there's no way that in the situation we found ourselves, any investment outfit could pay the rates they were paying at that time, if you wanted to be realistic. And the underlying asset in itself, you did not have control over the underlying asset. So it's important that when we are looking at investments, we try to understand what we are signing up to. Very, very important. Thank you.
So, quick one. In every investment, the yield and the risk go hand in hand. The higher the yield, the higher the risk, like the men's goal situation. And so, some Akudu in Kumasi, KJTI, they used to call something Fitri Kubani, Ushura Wundi. So you go, they have a table, and they'll put the ties there, and then you have these crooks there. Then you have this pin, and they'll do circle, they say, put it in. If they put the tie and it locks the stick you put there, they give you plenty money. But they are all crooks. Before you say Jack, all the money on you is gone. So Fitri Kubani, Usura Wendi. So if you are making an investment, number one, think that the higher the yield, the higher the risk. And that's why I talked about this thing. Now, I'm going to be blunt here, forgive me. If you ask me my opinion about where to invest now, the collective investment schemes, as he mentioned, in fact, their regulator even says that they shouldn't promise rates. So when you go to a collective investment scheme, they won't tell you that after 6 months, we'll give you this amount. So it means that depending on the investment climate or the environment, then you get a high yield. And that's why when the DDEP came, when you take your statement, they will tell you that your amortized amount is maybe 100,000. But if you want your money down, we give you 60,000. The good thing is that Abane will be anyhow. Okay, all right. The good thing is that with that treasury bill, you collapse. So the government is buying treasury bill. And nearly dolly, your interest rate is assured, and you get your money. So for now, I'll go for treasury bill. There is another trick that some of the collective investment schemes are doing. I won't mention any name. You can see me in Chambers, F22, Farm Road. What they have done is that they have registered the collective investment scheme in Ghana, but they operate in the foreign markets. So they have bought shares in Microsoft, Tesla, and all those things. Now, because the money they put there compared to what is in the US is very small, anytime you need your money, you can get it. And because it is Forex, it's always appreciated. So that's also a way to go. For now, government bond, no. Because that's the situation. So that's what I'll say.
Thank you. I think they need a clap because this is very, 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 very insightful for us young people. So I would like to just say this to my fellow young people that we should ask questions. Whenever we enter into a financial institution, we should definitely ask questions because there are a lot of knowledge in every financial institution that you have. Maybe there are some products that they are not even I'm telling you, but if you ask questions and probe further, there's a product there for you that can help you. Thank you so much. So,
we are not saying that avoid risk. Every investment has risk associated with it, but your investment must be within tolerable risk limits. Tolerable risk limits. At least for the young ones, you have enough time. So when you have built up enough resources, then you can begin to increase your risk appetite. That is the way to go.
Pocho but Ohana se koye men's good. Inye de ye kade ni nyansa na bibio ye pocho. Inye de ye kai oye also. See, let's. It's just an example. It was just an example. So let's not take it to heart, and let's make sure that we are still. I'm Mesana Bodubium. We are still taking notes because to me it's on my heart. It's very important to me. It's very important to me.
okay, thank you so much. The next question is very tough for me. I don't know. It's very, very tough. So I would make catch it. So, daddies, what are the biblical principles of generosity, and how can young Christians practice these in their daily lives despite financial constraints? Daddy, sometimes say tree a kana nankophobia babejina your window so mommy 1 CD, mommy 5 CDs. Sometimes they 90 or more hoa. They'll be asking you, oh daddy, oh brah. They'll be pulling you. The question hits us: how can we be generous in these aspects of our lives as Christians? Thank you.
Okay. Biblical principles for generosity and how young. I think that if you understand the principles, it makes it easy for you to be generous. So let me attempt to address the first point I want to make on this subject is to say that God is absolutely good. I want to establish some principles. God is absolutely good. Because if you look at the pains he took to create us and the ability he gave us to enjoy what he created, and after we have even mishandled what he gave us, he still sent his son to save us. That in itself is a very solid principle of who he is, his nature. Okay. The second principle I want us to guide us in addressing this generosity is that everything we have belongs to him. That is the other principle. There's nothing you have that was not given to you. Let's get that very clear. So God is good. Everything we have comes from him. The third point is that he created us in his image. What is his image? Once we understand his image, but we are called to be like him, to be like Christ. In other words, to reflect his nature. And his nature in this particular instance is demonstrated so much generosity. So that's the third point. The other point I want to add is that let's acknowledge that Jesus, once we have Jesus, it's enough. Because he is in fact, his supplies to us is endless. So we have an endless supply base that should influence our attitude towards generosity. Okay. And let me also quickly add that we must see generosity as an act of worship. When we give generously, what we are trying to do is not because God needs anything from us. But I believe we want to show our love for him. We want to be obedient to him. We want to also express our trust in him. That if he is able to give us what we give out, and he has an endless supply, he still can give us more. Okay? So that's another principle that perhaps we need to look at. The other principle that should also guide us is that what we are doing today, in terms of how generous we are, has an eternal consequence. The Bible makes it very clear. Our generosity has an eternal implications. That is also very important that we take a look at. So, it is not how much you give, but the motive behind. We are talking of higher stress. You have 50 cedis in your pocket. You think you do not have enough. That person asking you for 1 cedi has not eaten the whole day. 1 cedi out of your 50 cedis leaves you 49. So it is your heart attitude that should influence how generous you become, not the amount of money you have. Maybe I'm talking too much. Let me allow my brother to step in and then we can.
After this preaching, what again can I say? Collection collection.
See, yen same bisano yen that be but sisi an ye boy ama one what's na form no say or one same bia obi obisa yen doctors yen lawyers na yen financial experts na what's na hana minim one no one papa no ni ba one no wato pa and say a question be I pay the bisa. This is the time to ask.
Wow.
Thank you for the opportunity. Please, I want to ask, our daddy was talking about generosity and in the biblical way, but there was this thing I've realized about most of the Christians. I think most of the Christians who have companies and jobs to offer others, most cheat their employees, and it's hard for their employees to save for the future, because sometimes you work for a Christian and for you to get at least something that you can even save out of it, you see that what the person is paying you is not even taking you anywhere. Sometimes you have to use that money for even TNT, and even to eat is a problem. So our daddy bringing a biblical wedding in this one, I want to ask, why is it so hard for good Christians to cheat their employees? Thank you.
Why is it hard for good Christians to cheat? Why is it hard for good Christians to cheat? Sweetheart, let me worry you a bit, okay? I don't know where you got your statistics to use the word most Christians. Let's be careful with these things. You don't have any statistics, so don't say most. What if I tell you that I know Christians who are also doing very good for their staff? Okay? And what I would say is that, look, I'm not holding brief for any employer who one or the other is, for lack of words, cheating. And it's very interesting that you are freeze. Good Christians cheating. How can good and cheating come in the sense? So that is why we should all understand that the fact that I say I'm a Christian, or the fact that we come to church, does not make us Christians. If you ask me, there's nothing like a good Christian. A Christian is a Christian. Simple. Good. But what I will say is that we also need to be careful, because sometimes where we sit, because we don't have certain information, we expect more from our employers. But probably if they also open up and we see how much money that's also coming into the kitty, we also appreciate what they are doing. But that's not to say that it doesn't happen. I have experienced it myself, where they will say, come, let's work. They'll promise you heaven. You get in there, and then things are not what it is, okay? But you see, for young people like you, what I tell every young person is that at this stage, think about building your CV. You see? Because that small company you're talking about, because it's a small company, your title is probably a manager. But you see, when you now write your CV, you put the word what? Manager there. So the next job search, when they see manager, oh, then this person has experience. So let's do it. So I'm saying that you don't have to stay there all the time. But it's an opportunity for you to build your CV, to learn, to progress. Because trust me, the small companies gives you the opportunity to learn, and your development can be very sharp. Okay? I tease my elder brother all the time that you, after medical school, because you went to Domahi Crew, you kill some and then you get some. So by the time you came to town, you experienced more than your mates. Because if you have stayed at Confanochi, the consultant will allow him even to touch anybody. But I went to the mountain crew, any case they will call him, come. Oh, you be no could be not in your experience. So my advice is that don't be too sad. And sometimes the danger is that when we get to that stage, we get so disenchanted, we don't even give our best. And that becomes our attitude. So the next time when you get a better job, because you form this attitude of not working properly, you go there and you don't fit in. Okay? So please, I mean, these things do happen. Obey I.
Okay, thank you very much for the... Okay, so my question is about savings. So a young person completes university and then during the national service wants to start saving. And the person lives at, let's say, Tamakomti 1, and then gets a posting at Medina. When fuel prices hiked, from Tamakomti 1 to Medina was 19 cedi 50 pesos. Or to 37 was 19 cedis. So in and out is, let's say, 40 cedis. And then maybe the amount the person was earning was, let's say, 900 cedis, or let's say 1,000 cedis. The 80-10-10 rule, 900 cedis is already gone for transportation, or 800 cedis, considering 40 cedis times 20 working days. That's 800 cedis. So 800 cedis is gone. What do you do with the 200 cedis with feeding and then the 10-10-80 rule to develop the habit of saving as a young person from the national service or from a young employee who is earning just 1,000 cedis for that distance? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. When I was at KNUST, there was a doctor at the KNUST hospital. So when you go and you say, "Oh, doctor, Miss Mistress and I'm TMU," I said, "No, sutra saying." Oh, come Medina koyede. This is just a joke. See, there's something that we must learn. You see, you said something very interesting. My question is that why is it that you are staying with your parents at Tema? You work at Medina. There's food in the house. Why won't you pack lunch and take it to the office? Why do you want to go and buy lunch? Think about it. There's food in the house. Fortunately, so all you need to do is you wake up early, heat it and put it in. The good thing is that now almost every evening office there's a microwave. True or false? So pack, go, heat it, eat. You have saved lunch, haven't you? Now save the lunch and you have some money to save. Thank you.
Let's try and get this thing in proper perspective. You see, when we say begin to develop the habit of savings, we are not saying that start off by saving 1,000 cedis a month. In fact, I have a situation where I know of people who started off saving every coin they got when they went to town and back. Okay? They set that coin aside. By the end of the week, by the end of the month, the small coins will add up to about 50 cedis. Okay? Ordinarily, you would have left the coin somewhere else. But the idea is to make sure that every peswa, you create value out of that. That way, when you begin to get a lot more, it's easier to then set more aside. If you don't develop from the basis, then when you get more, you know that you are always going to get more. But that always, underlined, may never come. That is the point we are driving home in this discussion.
I just want to demonstrate something, but as we are trying to project it, I'm saying this to Refugee TV. I'm saying this to parents. I didn't know about it. I got to know about it very late. And I learned a bitter lesson. Now think about it. What do we do? When the child is in class 1 to 6, we say, if I give this child money, he will buy toffee. So I don't give money. You pack snack, you give it to the child, right? He gets to GHS, same story. Then he gets to SHS, then what do we say? I don't give you money. You go and look for the house master or the senior or somebody and you give him money. If you need money, go to this teacher, right? Unfortunately, when he gets to tertiary institution, you are forced to give their child money. At that time, he doesn't know how to use money. He doesn't understand money. So what do you want him to do? So it now brings it to life. But probably at that age, from between 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, if you can tell your child that, look, I'm giving you 10 cedis a week. For this 10 cedis a week, every amount you save, I also match it. Let's put some money box and let's put it in. Children are very competitive. He sees the coins dropping, he gets excited, right? And so now what are you doing? You are teaching the child how to do what? To save. You are teaching him to be money smart. So the things that you go and buy, he won't buy. Some of us learned it the hard way. In what classes now with team, your course will be unfinished camera, we learn something like that. So I'm saying that these things, we parents must also help them to learn how to do it. And we can do it in this way. Please, I just want the top part. If you can show the top part and open it up. Mr. Amwako said something. Mr. Ofrito, I want us to demonstrate. Media. Hello. Ayaka. Okay, so let's
me once nana or nantunant I didn't know about baby some assembly critical assembly pa. Also, Mr. Polly Lekasan, also investment here, BBR, obutuma grow cash. Me once nana also in there. Only investments are or you betting. Nti me pede mi bisa, yenim paying for what's in a hand there. One, what is your stance, be it personal or Christian, on betting as a form of investment? Because bidimiskaba, watchem risk are owum, which is another word you mentioned. Watchem potential returns are owum. Now watchem there, on your guaranteed, them misikane beba. But in the event there, mama kane bemno, misikane be grow. So by definition, betting is an investment. What is your stance on this?
Thank you. Before we go to betting, I hope you can see the screen. Okay, so this is just a projection, okay? This is more of a compounded interest, but I just want to demonstrate what Mr. Foytek was saying. So if you are putting down 50 cedis a week, okay, then we are saying that if you even take 5 days in a week, that is 10 cedis a day, right? We're able to talk credit, so you can save it, can't you? Somebody talk credit, phone calls. Good, all right. So we are saying that, young man, can you change even the 10 years to 5 years? Just go to that cell and enter 5. Good, 5. Now change the interest rate to 20, because 16 is quite too pessimistic. Now, so in 5 years, you have this amount of money. So you see that, like the Fotieko said, little drops of water makes what? A mighty ocean. Make the 5 years 10. Bingo. So you see that, and I like this saying that our poverty is not so much what money comes into our hand, but our poverty is how the money leaves our hand. All right? So I use the lunch as an illustration. Do you know what the the telcos did to us? They came and said, some of you are young. Mr. Foytek remember, when Space Phone came, you needed to buy, at that time it was about 50 cedis for a month. And if you exhaust it, even in first week, you need to wait for the following month to buy, say, 50 cedis. They were not making money. So you know the trick they did? They said, buy 1 Ghana cedi, talk every day. It's cheap, isn't it? But 1 Ghana cedi, 30 days, it's not 30 cedis. If they had come and told you that buy 30 cedis for a month, will you buy? No. Do you know the other trick in there? Because you buy the 1 Ghana cedi, you talk every day, you now form the habit of talking on phone. So the day they pull that promo away, you are forced to buy, isn't it? But you could have saved that money, and if you have saved that money, within a short period of time, you make more money. So there's so many ways that we can learn to save. How many of you are aware that even the malls, they have trained people to position the items that when you go, you buy something? That is people's field. Behavioral science. They position it. When you go there, so for those who go there for window shopping, two things happen. You go window shopping, you spend, or you leave, you are sad because you saw something you cannot afford. So if we can avoid those things, we can save. And once we make savings our habit, then it even becomes easier. And you see that incrementally you can then go on. Because you see, the truth is that, look, as for the money, if it comes to your hand and you want to chop, you chop. And the last one, try to automate it. So, madam, what I'm saying is that your national service allowance, if it's passing through your bank, tell your bank that, look, every time my money comes, take out maybe 50 cedis and put it somewhere for me, or put it in investment for me. Because the truth is that whatever comes to your hand, you survive. So if all comes, you live and survive. If they take some away, you live and do what? Survive. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the question on the floor is whether betting is an investment. Okay, let's look at it from first principles. We said investment could be using money for profit, or you putting money in some business venture to generate some returns, or something that you put money in which would appreciate over time. Now, in each of these three, the investor owns something in each of these three. But in betting, it's simply an arrangement between the person betting, making some predictions. He wins or loses if his predictions come through. He does not own anything. So technically speaking, betting is not an investment. It is not. You cannot say betting is an investment. Per the definition of an investment, betting is not. From the biblical standpoint, in fact, the Bible does not make a clear statement on things like betting. But however, it cautions us. But in 1 Timothy 6, there's a statement there which says that the love of money is the root of all evil. The Bible also makes a very interesting statement. We should avoid things that suggest get rich quick attitude. Okay? So if you read the wisdom books, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, there are clear cases of profound statements in the Bible that will guide us as to how we engage in some of these things. Because the more you are enticed into doing these things, the more likely that your attitude towards money may become your master instead of God being your master. That is a comment I want to make on this.
For those who know me very well, I eat and drink football. The interesting thing about betting is that, think about it. Those who stake, when they lose out, you never hear them talk. Then he wins some thousand and he's making noise. Call him and says, Master, who started betting how many years in it? And ask him if that 1,000 is commensurate to what he has put in. 9 out of 10. No one come more says 1,000 aside than I would do. 2, you know why football is very interesting sports? It is so unpredictable. So unpredictable. So how then do you predict and say, I'm going to make money out of it? The betting company know what they do because they know maybe 10 people are going to bet. They take all your money and they know just probably one person will win. And Komungui. So that one person, the 10 people, your money, they just take a fraction and pay that person. And they make more money. So for this betting and raffles and stuff like that, look, anybody who wins, you call the person on the side and say that, how much have you invested before you win this? I read mathematics, and I can tell you for a fact that if you give me more than 10 figures randomly, I'll come out with a pattern with it, and that's Lotto. So when you go and see them working Lotto, one friend is saying, upside down, konkuntiba, shadow number, that thing, they are all tricks. They are all tricks. It is a simple chance. And the point is that, how do you win? I have won Lotto before, and it's very interesting. For Nippon or work man, number no the man, Mukuchan and Medane, no, me momidi, think about it. I was in 6-4. So, those things, and we've said it here, like we said, again, always think about the yield and then what? The risk. Just think about it. It's not worth it. If you ask me, betting, it's not worth it. You lose out. And that's why I say, how many people do you hear making knowing that they've won? And if they've won, ask them, how long did you start?
See, me once ne Osempa. Asemna name to me and maybe some more. What the umwa and so am in tea. Say Eshena say or wa semana afane da she okotokum. The last question that we want to take. We've talked a lot about savings, we've talked a lot about investments, but one thing that we have missed so far is about our options for retirement. With the whole hullabaloo about SNAIT and whatnot, we as young people would also want to find out, outside of investments, what options for our retirement exist to us and which ones would you recommend to us?
Well, okay, thank you very much. Let me, I wanted to sing, but unfortunately, I gave my voice to a FIBA. Now she's wasting it, so I won't sing. She's wasting the voice. Those of you who know her know she's wasting the voice. True or false? Good. All right. I'll take my voice back. I have two things in common with Reverend Palmer Buckle. He's in Zimmer, I'm in Zimmer. He loves Bob Marley, I love Bob Marley. So there's a song Bob Marley calls it Natural Mystic. It says there's a natural mystic blowing through the air. You can't stop it. And that is retirement. Let's look at three things. Globally, people are aging. Why? Because science development is making us age. In fact, I tell people that if you want to see people are health conscious, 5 o'clock, go and stand in front of your gate. You see the number of people who are going for walk. Why do you think they are going for walk and they are jogging? They want to age. Those were the days when a Ghanaian is buying food, say, Mami, put more oil. Now they say, Mimpo oil, true or false? Why? They want to age. So globally, people are aging. Number 2, standard of living, cost of living is increasing. True or false? So you see, 2 things is happening here. You are aging. Cost of living is going up. 3, in the Africa setting, one of our supportive networks was the family support. Now that family support is breaking apart, true or false? Okay? So those days, when you hear somebody going on retirement, a baker will come. They will pack all his things straight to village. When they go, there's a family house. Even if you didn't build the house, you get some one room. You go there. In the morning, when everybody going to farm, there's a busuya sase. You go and read some. You come, you pan for food, you eat. I want to cry. So, so when you add all these three things, me, if you ask me, where's my family house? I say F22. Everybody doesn't know her hometown. So you see, when you add these three things, what is happening? Old age poverty. You are growing old, cost of living is high, you don't have the money, you don't have people supporting you. Because the days that you are saying that I'm giving birth to my kids to come and take care of me, forget it. So if you add these three, then what is happening to what? Old age poverty. And that old age, you are not strong enough even to work to make money, true or false. So you are in bad business. And this is where you must prepare for what he called retirement. This is where you must save money towards your retirement. Look, retirement or pension funds is investment. The only difference is that it is a long-term investment. And so you do it little by little. And that's what I talked about, the transition. Because Steve, who's going to marry next year, says, that investment should be different from your investment that you know it will come in 50, 60 years. And it will come. It's as simple as that. It will come. And so this is the time to learn to invest for your future. One thing we forget is that SNIT tells us that their pension is universal basic pension scheme. What does basic means? The minimum. That's all. That's what it means. The minimum. So if you think you want to rely on your SNIT pension, you are in danger. Especially the country we live in. You see, everything about us has turned upside down. In the developed countries, people make their money and go into politics. In Ghana, people go into politics to make money upside down. In the developed countries, people retire and their expenditure goes down. In Ghana, you retire and your expenditure shoots. So think about it. SNIT is going to give you a percentage of your best 3 years salary. Not the full. And the highest percentage is 60. So assuming at the time you are retiring, you are living on 100 cedis. And then the next day you are on retirement. So you get even 60%. How much are you taking away? 60 cedis. But you have lived a life of 100 cedis. Are you now going to park your car? So what it means is that you must have other investments to support it. Thank God the pension law allows us to have a minimum. I always say that I say a minimum of 3, especially if you're a formal sector worker. You are tier 1 and you are tier 2. Take advantage of the voluntary tier 3. In fact, that's why I brought that chart. So that chart, the good thing is that it's a voluntary pension scheme, and every single, it's even flexible. You can decide how much you want to pay and how much you want to put in. and it grows. So can you think about the fact that if at this stage, average 25, and every month you are putting in 50 cedis, in the next 25 years, you have enough money to support your tier 1 and your tier what? Tier 2. And so for me, old age poverty is a clear and present danger. If you go to South Africa, the literature says that the poverty amongst the blacks is because of dependency ratio. And what it means is that I'm working, I'm taking care of my father, I'm taking care of my mother, I'm taking care of my siblings. Therefore, when I give birth, I don't have enough money to put them to those good schools for them also to come out very well. So it becomes a vicious cycle. By the time I grow old, they also need to do what? Take care of me. Meanwhile, they are not earning much. It becomes a vicious cycle. Papa Fachamion, and no one here in your sofa bonia or see the generational case, Kofa Bibibra. Generational case, because it's become a vicious cycle. You couldn't take care of your children, now they have to take care of you. They can't take care of their children, they also have to take care of their fathers, and so there's always poverty. But think about it. If you have a proper retirement plan, and you don't have to depend on your children, what it means is that they also have money to take care of what? Their children. And they also not depend what? On their children. And so I call old age poverty as a clear and present danger, natural mistake. If you don't do anything about it, and trust me, don't think that you are too young. It will catch up with you before you blink an eye. Na minti say you, na me yefunusa. Nice man, my old age. So please, take it serious. Sign on to a pension scheme. Forget about tier 1 and tier 2. Sign on into a personal pension scheme. Do it small, small. Don't push it small, small. And then you can do very well. Thank you very much.
All too soon, we've come to the end of our discussion. In him day di one time, but kasana ye kasen, so no e wonde wana no nye wonde. Oh minti o no e wonde wana no nye wonde. E adu woni ma ya kawana. No e wonde wana no nye wonde. And Papa se men country on the na come war next year, but one jidu into next year war ne nyamba. Oh ye de wana no nye do. Okay, so we'll not waste any more of your time. We want to say a big thank you to our fathers, our daddies, for giving us a very wonderful talk, insights into how to save, to plan for our future, especially based on Christian principles. Without wasting any more time, we invite our Dogza to lead us through our offering, and then we can close post haste. Incrementum. Word and incrementum.
I-N-C-R-E-M-E-N-U-M. Incrementum. I-N-C-R-E-M-E-N-T-U-M. Incrementum.
Say no. Incrementum. But you're sorry. Whilst we bless our offering. So, Father, in the name of the Lord Jesus, we thank you. We honor your name. We give you all the glory. We give you all the thanks for this very godly topic that we have discussed concerning our finances. In honor of your name, we have come with our offering to give to you. Your word says that there is a reward for him that brings to you. So, Father, let the reward of the giver come to you, come to us in the name of the Lord Jesus. Bless our offering, sanctify our offering, and let it be a sweet-smelling savor unto your nostrils in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. And let every blessing that is associated with it and the knowledge of keeping our finances be with us. Help us to grow and increase to the glory of your name. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed with thanksgiving. Amen. So we'll all share in the words of the general benediction. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen. God willing, tomorrow 6:30, we'll be here for another round of incrementum. What is it?
Please, a quick announcement. Please, we encourage you all to try and come on time.
I-N-C-R-E-M-E-N-T-U-M. Incrementum.
Calling all boomers, millennials, and Gen Z. On Thursday, July 18, 2024, join us as we explore love's journey from the past to the present. Love Through Generations is a program designed to share the wisdom of older generations about relationships and marriage and the fresh perspective of the younger generations. We will delve into how relationships evolve with societal changes and technology, while staying grounded in the principles of communal discipleship.
By comparing traditional and modern approaches to relationship, we aim to deepen our understanding of their impact on our growth in Christ. This session will highlight both classic and contemporary views on relationship and marriage.